Kia ora everyone from New Zealand. I'm Luke and I'm really excited to share with you an app that we've built for a large government organisation called the Security Development Lifecycle Tool. And I've got some slides and then we'll get into the demo of the app. I'll try and make the slides really quick. So here we go. So today I'm sharing with you the NZTA Security Development Lifecycle Tool. Here we go. So a little bit about where we work. We work with a company called Catalyst, and we have locations all over the world. Myself and the team, we're in Little Wellington, New Zealand down there, but we've got offices in Australia, in Dublin and Brighton in the UK. Now, we primarily look after open source software, all sorts of things. We have other CMS technologies, e-learning platforms. We also provide New Zealand's Catalyst Cloud, which is our own New Zealand data centers and cloud infrastructure. And me and the team, we look after all of New Zealand's Silverstripe applications and Silverstripe practices that we push out to the wider New Zealand organisation. Our team, we're pretty small, technically, 8 people, and we leverage other teams of the company, such as visual design, customer experience, QA, cloud ops, and we essentially bring them into when we're doing a development like the SDLT. We look after a number of different apps for mainly councils, government and research institutions. We also do websites, but we really like things like this. So tools that help businesses really improve their practice or presenting data and information to the public, things like that. So a little bit about the Transport Agency. So that's New Zealand's government agency that's looking after the safe and functional transport by land. So that's all our highways and roads, making sure those are safe. Additionally, they look after our driver licensing and working on all of that. So they had a problem to solve. And it was all around security assurance. There was a real lack of visibility of software that was being assessed for digital security assurance within the organization. There was many paper-based processes that are hard to follow. Security forms are difficult for non-technical people. There were teams reaching change production at times without considering security assurance for those changes. And there were also some teams within the organization that were completing more than what they really needed when it came to security assurance. So you had this sort of one side of the coin not doing any and the other side doing too much. There's a lot of sort of products out there around security assurance and assessment, but they are quite costly in terms of licensing. This organization has over 1,500 employees. And if you need a majority of those employees having access to a system like this, those costs can actually get quite high. So what started the vision of this particular project was a tool built by Slack, which you're probably all very familiar with. In KiwiCon here in New Zealand in 2018, NZTA went to a talk about Go SDL. And this is an open source product that Slack built. And it highlighted that potential use case of automated digital workflows for security assurance, an automated way of doing this, rather replacing your spreadsheets and your documents and things like that. But it didn't quite meet the needs of NZTA by quite a margin. So they were in a bit of a spot. So they came and talked to us. We were already working with the NZTA on another significant project. We actually, Silverstripe is behind New Zealand's crash data analysis system, which manages a significant amount of data, 20 years of crash data, to help engineers identify problem spaces in the highway and our highways and roads across New Zealand. So they came to us and asked, they brought us this problem about security assurance and wanting to automate this or make it a digital process for them. So Scott, he's the security architect, the one with the vision, and he's in our team. We talk with him pretty much every single day. We've got a small core team around it, including myself, Rupam, Elliot, who's in the chat, and he's going to answer some questions if you've got any around the technical aspects. Sherman, our QA, Michael, Cheryl. There are other members as well who might jump in every now and then if we need the extra help. But release 1, you know, we were looking to build something that hasn't really been done to this kind of scale before. But in the first 8 weeks, we rolled out what we called release 1. And release 1 was sort of released to a smaller group of NZTA just to get feedback on what worked and what didn't. And we've been continuing from that day. So over the last 17 months, we release pretty much monthly. We've done 18 major release, minor and major releases to the tool itself. And we do this in an ongoing development approach. So we don't look at this like a project. We look at this as an ongoing product that always needs to change. So we, NZTA, kind of empower us to keep delivering on the product. We're hosting on the Catalyst Cloud, as I mentioned, on our CMS platform, which supports Silverstripe. We also integrate with Azure Active Directory using the OAuth login module. We also integrate with their project management tool, Jira. And this allows our tool to populate Jira with what's called risk controls, which I'll demo a bit later and talk about. So if in your project you need to implement one of these controls, you'd put that as a ticket in your Jira or a user story or an epic, as they usually are, to implement. And once it's set to done in Jira, it'll tell our tool and it will say it's implemented in SDLT. So if you're doing an assessment, you can track these controls and their implementation. So what is it overall? Well, it's a digital questionnaire and task management system for digital security assurance. It allows users to essentially be asked a series of questions about a product deliverable that they're going to be implementing. And then based on those questions and how you answer these questionnaires, it generates a bunch of tasks that are necessary for security assurance, such as PCI DSS compliance, penetration testing, information classification are more easily recognizable tasks that you might need to complete in an assessment. But there are many, many more, and we have covered pretty much all of them. So the SDLT handles approvals for the submissions by using a very simple workflow. So it goes through security architects, they review the submissions, then goes to the security information officers, and then goes to the business owners themselves to review those assessments and approve or deny them digitally using the tool. And of course, it's built on Silverstripe. It's a great open source framework, and it's really great for managing relational data structure like we have. And we can utilize model admins and GraphQL. We also have in there React.js and Redux. So what kind of challenges did we face in this project? Well, security and risk assessment is a very complex problem space. It requires a lot of subject matter expertise that we only have very minimal amount of over 17 months ago. Now we're way more understanding of it. But we had to also introduce process change to a very large government organization and do that transition relatively slowly. But then it kind of exploded in the last year or so. Okay, so the digital security risk assessment portion of this, we had to make this highly configurable because no organization is identical, and we've created a digital risk assessment algorithm which allows you to change values. You can decide how risky something is. And to do that, you've got to add values and things, and we do that in the admin. And it's fully configurable with weights and scores and things like that. which I'll go over in the demo, and you'll see how all that works. Model admin and grid fields. So we have a bit of grid field inception. So configuration can be a bit of a learning curve. And I'll demonstrate this shortly, but we can get around, go around circles a lot, and training people is a bit of a core tenet here. So successes throughout the project. We've done over 200 assessments at NZTA to date, which is quite a lot, considering these used to take several weeks and months in extreme cases just to do one assessment. Now they're getting through in hours or minutes in most cases, and that's saving them days in wasted time of communication overheads, third-party assessments, and the time that it takes to go through an assessment. It also enabled business continuation through the COVID-19 lockdowns. They were able to do all the assessments online, which really bolstered the use of the tool over the lockdown, when they couldn't do it at all if they didn't have this tool. So us having the tool really encouraged that real positive business change with Silverstripe and the Security Development and Lifecycle tool. And that's what makes us really proud of what we've developed. What's better is we've open sourced it for free. So you can go and get the SDLT yourself, and NZTA enable us to help maintain that open source community. So we're constantly looking at the issues list, which there aren't very many at the moment. So please go on, get in there. They have also open sourced all their own developed assessments, questions, and tasks as templates, meaning anyone can pick this up and just look over those templates and make them work how you want them. Other agencies, there are features to export, import, and share their own assessments in the tool, and it's probably very useful for other agencies to adopt and contribute to the tool as well. So we're promoting quite heavily. Go check it out. All right, let's have a demo. We're doing good for time, so I can show off a lot. Here we go. Just share this. Okay, can everyone see that? Great, looks good. Okay, so I've logged into the tool. So as a user, I'm probably a solution architect at NZTA or an agency, and I'm looking to deliver a digital solution. So in the tool and the assessments provided, you've got you might be doing a proof of concept or product trial of some software. You might be buying software as a service. You may be wanting to do a bespoke solution delivery or an initial software release, or you may want to make a change to an existing product at the organization. Now, a user will come in here and they'll select one of these. I'll just go into this. I'm making a change to existing product, and the questionnaires that we have here give you a bit of context around what you're about to fill out and why. You'd hit start, and that will kick off the submission process. So I've got another one to sort of save time, kind of partially filled out. I can go here. I can see existing ones that I've got running. I'm going to view this one that I've got in progress. So you'll see here it's a simple questionnaire form generally, and the questions will come up. You'll have various actions that we have here, which are fully configurable. You can have one or more, as many as you like. So a question like this, do you have release notes for this deliverable? If I hit no, what that's doing is actually going to skip the question because it's not relevant around the release notes, but it's also going to generate a task for me later to create release notes. I got to provide a description of the change, so I'll just type in something here, something I prepared earlier. Here we go. And we'll just do that. Great. Okay, release date for a deliverable. Let's just put that in there. Here we go. So then we can get more sort of actions, more decisions. you can actually create as many as you like. So this is an example of, does this add new data or information that belongs to the agency? And we can go yes, new alert, or logging information. And that might have an impact to another task later, which I'll show you. And you'll see here it skipped a number of questions as part of that option. So you don't have to go through questions you don't really necessarily need to answer. So this is what was happening previously, is people would answer these questions or fill them out when they really didn't need to, or they weren't sure and just put something in there. Now it saves time by skipping those questions. Will this new data be transferred to external location? Let's go yes. Oh, cool. So I said yes, and now it's asking me where. So we can go Germany. There we go. Let's put that in there. All right. Has this service been used in the past? I don't know. Or yes, no. Let's go yes. And does the deliverable? So let's just go through and click these. Modify. So let's go no. Yes. Yes. Of course, you'd answer these real if I was really doing it. The tool, interesting enough, our product owner came up with a really cool idea of using the existing functionality to create tutorials within the system. So you can actually create tutorial tasks, which is not something we anticipated, but it's fully possible to create tutorials in the tool as well. Let's go no. We're almost done on this one. Here we go. Prepared this earlier. There we go. All right, any other information? So when you finish a submission, you can review it. You can download as a PDF. Don't know if that will work, but we'll then submit the questionnaire. And once you've submitted it, it goes into the system. Here we go. Cool. So I've now submitted the questionnaire for the first part of the workflow. The user is sent an email back to this questionnaire. The security architects are aware this submission is in play. It also stores it into the CMS as well. But we also get a bunch of tasks, and that's what you're seeing here. So tasks are essentially a collection of more questionnaires, or some tasks have a bit more functionality than your basic questionnaire, but it's a pretty simple way of completing additional tasks through other questionnaires. And here we go. So I'll just complete this one as well. I need to put in a link here. We validate all our fields that are actually what they are, so I have to put a URL in there. Please confirm your progress. Yeah, I confirm. Cool, and it skips those. Right, and I go back to the questionnaire, and it tells you this task is now complete. And cool, I'll have to complete all the tasks to go there, but I've got essentially what I can do is I'll log out and I'll log in as a security architect and show you all my password. There we go. That should work. Okay. Okay, so a security architect or a chief information security officer or a business owner, they can see things that might be ready for them to approve. That's both questionnaires and tasks. So here I'm a security architect, and I can go, cool, this one's assigned to me. I've got one here unassigned, so I can look at that and, oh, hang on, that was my one. So, okay, never mind. Demo, that's what always happens in a demo. So a person who created a submission cannot approve their own submissions. That's part of the business logic in the tool. So the tool knows who you are, who submitted it, and it prevents people from approving their own submissions. So here we go. So this here, I can review this, and this may not show, because I'm screen sharing the tab here, it won't show the PDF when I open it, but I'll download this or I'll view answers here and I can review this. Go back to the summary. I can either approve or deny. I can also, this particular questionnaire is configured to skip the business owner and ISO approvals if required, just to make things, some questionnaires can be configured to do this if they're just simple enough for a security architect to approve on his own. So I'm just going to approve this one. And that'll send off some emails. It'll say here that the approvals, Chief Information Security is not required. I've approved it, and emails will go off telling people that it's all approved. All right, so one of the biggest or coolest aspects is this digital security risk assessment. So the DSRA is essentially a full digital security risk assessment on software. So it takes a bunch of risks, controls, and then gives you a printout or a matrix to say how much risk is in your software. So we start by doing an initial risk assessment. And so this tells you all about it. Okay, so I'm going to start evaluating the risk of software. So there's a few questions, simple questions in this demo that builds up risk. So these questions here are all tied to risks and weightings. So how much data will I be interacting with in my software? If I just went first name like this, that's less risk than saying I'm exposing all of this data in my software. So this is accumulative. I'll just tick all of these. Let's make it real risky. Okay, continue. We can't expose NZTA systems because that would be bad information security practices. So we're in the system that you would get out of the bot in the open source, we've just put these as kind of the defaults. An agency will need to come up with what their systems are and configure those in the tool. So we've now created some base risk of our system, and you'll see here that there's a number of weightings to the answers I've given, and these values are all part of the algorithm, and it gives an overall risk score and a rating that matches that score, fully configurable in the CMS. So each agency might have a different weighting for each of those answers than someone else. They may have different labels for their ratings and different colors and things. So I'll show you that in a bit. We're doing well for time. So I'm going to go back to the questionnaire. So that task is complete, and you'll see a security risk assessment has started to appear. It's now starting to build that security risk assessment from completing these additional tasks. So I'm going to go into the control validation audit, and this is where controls come into play. A user will start going, okay, what controls do I have to mitigate risk against a system? Each control has a bit of a description, configurable in the CMS, of course, and evidence of implementation is where the user would write down how they've implemented it or how it's no longer applicable. So you've got some options here, yes, no, or NA. If you're using the Jira integration, all of this is automatic, so you don't need to click these buttons. It's just powered by Jira and would say it's implemented or not. Have I got an example here of, cool, yeah, implementation guidance. So if in the CMS, the administrator has added guidance on how to implement a control, it'll appear here as well, and the user can read that and go and figure out how to implement it or get some idea on what they need to do. So in the open source data, NZTA have created one big bucket of controls called agency baseline control set, and it looks like this. However, you can actually separate all of these into their own groups of control sets. So each agency might be different in how they group their controls, and so we call them software components or security components. So you can break all these up instead of having one big massive list. So I'll just set some of these to yes, and I'll submit that. So this will go back into the system and populate this. So those familiar with security risk assessment that have been done in the past, or the spreadsheets and things like that, you'll get this big risk matrix. And you'll see here the risk that it's identified in the base score, the controls in place that are against that risk to mitigate it, its likelihood, current impact, and the current risk rating. As you essentially select more of these recommended treatments, they get applied to current controls and start lowering these risk numbers, which then lower your risk rating. So the more treatments controls you implement, the more treatments you put in place or are not applicable, we'll start changing the table. Now, these are all critical. But as you start buying more of these, we call it buying because you'd want to buy the best mitigation and you start doing this. So we have some legends. All of these are configurable. So the thresholds are configurable for all of these, the colors, the labels, everything's fully configurable. Once you complete this, we finalize it. And there we go. We've finalized it. Then we send it off for approval. And then a security architect will go through. As I'm logged in as one, you'll see that I can't approve or deny. I can't assign it to me because they don't want the same person doing submissions actually approving them. So that's pretty much the front end of how the tool works. I'll now start showing you the admin. Just double check the chat that everything's all good. Everyone happy? Great. Cool. Okay. All right, so here we are. Very familiar to everyone. So you'll notice we've got pages here. I believe everything's routed through the homepage. Elliot can confirm. But we essentially use these model admins to manage everything pretty much. The homepage and the error pages are primarily just for controlling whether people can log into the site or not and see and the error pages come up. We're thinking about in the future, maybe we do add more content through the pages, the CMS. So we've left it in there for now, but it's not really used as much as the model admin. So the homepage you saw is all managed in dashboards. So you could have more than one, but we're just sort of working with one at the moment. And here you can edit pretty much everything about it: the title of the app, the subtext that you saw. And in here, you manage pillars. So pillars are what you saw for each assessment. We can add as many as you like with drag and drop ordering. And each pillar has configuration of itself. And then we've got a number of config around each pillar. So you can allow it to skip the business owner and CISO approvals. We've got the pillar type, which is essentially powering the icon that you see, and then the title or label of that pillar of the assessment. Then you associate that with questionnaires. And here we have the introduction of this questionnaire. Just simple, as you've seen, standard HTML fields. You can set expirations, default expirations on these questionnaires and the days to which they expire, because we don't want a lot of started questionnaires hanging around forever. So we put expiration dates on them, so they just essentially cancel them and remove them. So yep, questions are managed again, grid field, and this is what I was mentioning before. We get a little bit of grid field inception going. So this is this is probably not the best example, but here we go. We've got a question title, question heading, and we have answer field types. So this one has actions on it, and then those actions are those buttons that you saw. And then you can create one or more of those buttons that have an action to them. And we've got a number of action types. So there's continue to the next question,
go to another question in the list. So that's how you skip questions in the list. A message, say if you answer yes and you no longer need to answer that questionnaire, you can show a message to say you don't need to answer this, go elsewhere, or just present a message. Okay, and finish. You can actually create a button that simply finishes a questionnaire and takes you to the summary screen with the answers that you've completed to that point. All questions can actually generate tasks. And again, we can add tasks or additional questionnaires. And then you manage those tasks just like you would with questionnaires, except they have a little bit more functionality to it. They have a type. So this one's, there are a number of task questionnaire types. So you've got the control validation audit, which shows all the controls that are in the system, a questionnaire, another questionnaire, which has all the questionnaire features, risk questionnaire, that's a special one with all the risk weightings. Security risk assessment is the special task that has the security risk assessment matrix, and selection is a selection of the components. So you might want to select which components that before it goes to the control validation audit. Yeah, a number of other features there. So submission emails, you can configure the emails that are sent. The approval group, you can actually specify specific groups can give approvals rather than additional to the security architects. You can actually give specific groups, and this is task of provers was a special group that was added later in development. So if a task needed approval by someone specifically, certain tasks have to be approved by certain groups. So we've given the ability for those groups to approved. We use used on a lot because it's because of how much data we're pushing around and how many questionnaires, how many tasks there are in the system. It gets hard and you get to find them. So we used on tabs to try and get around that navigation problem. When you're deep into a questionnaire, it's tasks. Maybe that tasks has more questionnaires if you create more. So you can get lost. So we have this used on feature to see where in the system it's this one particular task might be used elsewhere as a solution for that. So that's sort of managing questionnaires. What about submissions? So all submissions are, again, another grid field, but we report on a number of different things from a submission. You'll see here, there's quite a lot of things that come through, but we can look at a submission that's currently in play at the moment. And you can see this has got statuses. So we've got a number of statuses from in progress to approved or denied, awaiting preview. We've got unique IDs for URLs. We've got approval link tokens, number of things there. What task submissions are related to that particular submission, questionnaire submission. Links if you need to share these with various people within your team. Answer data. So we store everything in JSON as it's just how it is at the moment. We might make it human readable in the CMS eventually, but it was just handy for our client who uses JSON a lot for various things, importing and exporting and the like. So submitter details, so who the submitter is. You can resend the email down the lower right here if they need the emails again for where their submissions are. We've got security architect details, which we don't have. So you can essentially select or assign a submission if you like to any one of the security architects, and you can change the statuses within the CMS. Same with the CISO and the business owner. You can essentially go through the whole process within the CMS as well using these fields. So those are submissions. We've got security components. So this is where the administrator would manage all of the security components. So you add them at a top level object, and within there you can have many controls, one or more. So each control has a bunch of fields, pretty simple. So this is what powers the likelihoods impact ratings, is these values here. You can give some base risk values that you would enter in here. Nice and simple. You can also see task submissions separate from the questionnaire submissions, but essentially the same thing when it comes to a submission, all the same values and all the same fields. Additionally, we track every change in this administration. So as part of the system, it has to be fully auditable. So any change to a questionnaire, any change to values, all of the submissions, everything is audited in the administration. So this whole table can fill up pretty quickly, so we can export it and you can track all the changes within the tool. Okay, we can look at some sort of customizations that you can do. So you can change the title. We can configure alternate host names for emails. There's lots of little features like this that if WAF is enabled on some organizations' networks, you can have alternate email host names and things like that. You can manage all the background images, fav icon, header logos. You can brand it to your own needs. We've got alerts here. We've got the PDFs that are printed out, so you can put your own headers in there. And you can just change the footer text as well. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the back end. I'm sure I've forgotten something really cool, which we can go over in the questions. So we also developed a SaaS version as well for those who are unable to take the open source project. We can actually, we have a SaaS subscription service, which provides all the regular backups and maintenance. We have consultation and training. We have all the new releases that go into the SaaS version as well as they are released. Any questions? If we could invite Elliot and Julian, that would be great. Thank you.
Oh, am I live?
Yes, you're live, Elliot. Hello.
I was looking at the icon thinking it was. Hi, I'm Elliot.
Any questions about the tool? Pretty quiet.
Hi, Simon.
Matt says it's a really cool solution. The design is approximately 1 million times better than others I've seen before. Yeah, thanks. Silence is golden.
There's one from Gary about the form schema. I believe it's using Redux Thunk. I don't think it's using form schema specifically. It might be. I think Thunk is what it's using.